Hey, welcome back. So today we're going to play around with landscapes. And what I'm going to show you is basically how to make a material, and that's really what this tutorial is about, is the material for the landscapes, and then a little bit of an introduction into the tools that are inside of Unreal Engine to allow you to be able to make a landscape out of a flat plane using the tools inside of Unreal Engine. So you can see here behind me the demo that is on this image. And let me go ahead and talk a little bit about my YouTube channel. If you want to check out some of my games and other things in Unreal Engine, some things in Maya and animation and 3D modeling, you can check it out here at Putting on the Fritz 3D Visualization. So let's go ahead and take a look at the project for today. Okay, so here in Unreal Engine 5, we have the world that I just kind of put together real quick, and the materials that we used are basically reading the altitude of, or the angle rather, of the terrain, and it is automatically applying texture to the terrain based on that angle. And we can see that kind of over here with this, as we have grass, we have some dirt along the edges here, and then along the top, or along the face here, the steeper angles, we have this rock material. So if I go out here into kind of a flat area and go into my landscape mode, and if I can just kind of paint right here, you can see that it starts to rise up, and as it does, it automatically applies the materials that we want. So you see the grass down along the bottom, okay, or the grass out here, you see this kind of a sand, dirt along the side here, and then this rock material. And we control it all within our master landscape instance. So it's a material instance, and we've applied these textures in here, put together a master landscape material from these individual material functions for rock, dirt, and grass, and they're all three the same. They all have the same default materials, and then we'll apply them here in our instance. So let me go ahead and move this out of the way. Okay, and let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to open up a new project in Epic. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and go to the little yellow button here. Okay, so here we have our selections. We're just going to go ahead and go into games. I'm going to pick a third person because I like having the ability to run around and take a look at the terrain from the viewpoint of the player. You can also do this in first person. Since these are more intended for like regular 3D, I'm not going to use the top down, but I recommend one of these two. So just pick one. We are going to go ahead and use our starter content right here. Because there's a texture in there that we need, and depending on your system, you can turn on ray tracing or not. For this demo, I'm not going to turn on ray tracing for this, and don't forget to give it a name. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and call this my landscape, and I'll just call it project. I'm going to put a 1 after because I already have one with that name in it, and it's going to go into my Unreal Engine projects. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and create it. And I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, so now it's shown up. Here it is in our third person. And of course, if you're in the first person, it looks a little bit different than this. So what I'm going to do first thing is I'm going to go ahead and just create a new level. I'm going to do a basic level. Hit create. I'm going to title give my level a name, so I'm going to go ahead and save current level as, and I'm just going to call this my landscape. I'll call it landscape 1. Maybe I'll make more. I don't know. All right, and it's just going to drop right into here. Normally I make a map. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and add a folder. I'm going to right click. I'm going to click in there, put a new folder, and I'm just going to go ahead and call this maps. And I'm going to select the map. Landscape 1 is going to go in there, and we're going to go ahead and save it. Okay, now that we've got this set up, the next thing we need to do is we're going to go to Bridge real quick, and we're going to find 3 materials that will work for our surface materials that will work for our landscape. And the reason is I need it to get loaded in so that we can use part of the Megascans modules, I guess, blueprint that we want to use. We're going to kind of reuse a little bit of one of them. You may need to sign in. Don't forget to click up here and sign in. And then we're going to go to surfaces. The first thing I'm going to look for is grass, because that's the one that comes up in the order there. And you don't necessarily need to use grass. You can use dirt, gravel, sand, whatever, depending on what you're thinking you might want your landscape to be. I'm just going to go ahead and just pick a basic grass. It's not too overwhelming. This is the one I was using in my demo. It actually came out pretty well. Since I've already downloaded it and saved time, I'm just going to go ahead and export it into my project. Okay. And it'll pop up like this when you have it exported. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. And let me make sure that it's going where it's supposed to go in this particular one. Yes, we're good. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go back to Bridge real quick. Now I'm going to go and pick some gravel. And I used one of these in here somewhere. Let's see here. I've used this one in the past. This one was okay, but I wasn't really liking the way it looked in that scene. So let's try this one right here. I'm just going to go ahead and hit download. Depending on how fast my internet is, I may pause. It seems to be doing okay. Let's go ahead and export that one. Okay. And now I'm going to go on to rock. I'm going to find a rock. And something with some good definition in it this time, I think, maybe. Okay, we're going to go with this one, I think. I've downloaded these all at medium quality. Depending on your computer, you can run it at a higher quality. And I'm kind of wishing I had, but that's okay. We'll just leave it at this. And now, export it. All right, so there we have it. We got it exported. We'll see how these work together. You can pick any one that you want. You do not need to pick the same ones that I'm using. And yeah, we'll just go with those 3. We can always change these out once you see how easy it is to do it. You can always pick them, try it out. If you don't like it, change them out. The way we get this set up, it'll work out pretty well. All right, so now we're going to go back to our main menu here for our landscape. We're going to click on that tab. If we go to the content drawer, see that we have our Megascans. Okay, I'm going to go back to the main content folder. We're going to go into this folder here in a minute, MS Presets. This is the one I wanted to get loaded in with our Megascans. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to right-click, and we're going to go ahead and create a new folder. We're going to call this folder Materials. I'm going to double-click on this, open it up. I'm going to make 2 folders. I'm going to make a folder, one called Master Landscape. Yeah, we'll just call it Master Landscape. And then the other one, I'm going to right click and I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder, and we're going to call this one Material Functions. So our material functions are going to go in there. Okay. All right. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to double click our material function, open that up. We're going to right click, and we're going to go up here to where it says materials, and we're going to find the material function. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and we're going to call this one MF underscore, and we're going to start with dirt. Okay, we're just going to call it dirt. And I'm going to double click on it and open that one up. Okay, and we have this output result, and that's all we have in here right now. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to jump over to our content again. We're going to go into that MS Presets. Double click on that. And the one we want to use is the material MS. So it's M underscore MS surface. Okay. And we want just the surface material. Okay, we don't want anything else, okay? If you get one of the ones that has VT in it at the end, so like this one down here, the one that says VT, we do not want to use virtual textures. We're using regular textures. So we're going to use this one right here, okay? So MS Surface Material. We're going to double click on that. We're going to zoom out a little bit. Now we're only going to use part of this, okay? The tiling is going to come from a different part of our program that we're going to write, our blueprint. But we are going to use this piece right here, and we want to use these adjustments right here. So we're going to highlight these, okay? And I'm just going to hit Control-C for copy. I'm going to go back to my material function, and kind of down here somewhere, I'm going to go ahead and click on it and hit Control-V and paste that in there. And that's going to get us started. It's already got the textures that we're going to use as our base textures embedded in it, so that should be a good place to start. Okay, now we're going to come back to this in a few minutes, all right? Up here at the very top, I'm going to kind of go up over here and just kind of empty area up over here. And we're going to create a texture variation that's going to give us that look in our game that makes it so that our texture, so the textures that are on our game, so if I zoom out here real quick, highlight, go up, you can see that there's this kind of variation that's kind of forming across the ground. It doesn't have that repeated tiling look that if you just throw a texture in there, it's going to have. This texture actually kind of breaks it up for us. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to write that piece to the program, okay? All right, so up in this area up here, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get those that texture in here that we're going to use. So I'm going to right click right here, and we're going to use a parameter 2D, P-A-R-A-M-T-E-T, there we go. And it's going to be a texture sample parameter 2D right here, okay? And we're going to name this T underscore macro variation. Okay, so you can see that right down here, T underscore macro variation. I'm going to click on it, and what I want to do is I want to change out this texture. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back down here to my content drawer. I'm going to go up to my content level, and in this search section I'm going to type in T underscore macro. Okay, and as we start to type in macro, we're going to get the T macro variation. I'm going to select it. I'm going to go back over here on my texture here, my parameter 2D, and right here, this little white circle with the arrow in it. I'm going to click on it, and as long as we had that selected, it will put this in here for us, okay? And we got this error because we're missing a function, output result, and we'll get to that in a bit. All right, so don't worry about it. So this is one, okay? We actually need 3 of these, so with it selected, I'm going to hover my mouse underneath it down here, hit Control-D once and twice. Okay, so now we got 3 of these. Line them up. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here to the sides, and I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to type in text. What is it? Texture. I think it's texture. Oop. Always find it having no problem. So if we type in coord, or start to type in coup, we want this texture coordinate right here, okay? And that's the node we want. It should look like this, okay? And we're going to leave it with its default of 0 and its tilings of 1 and 1, okay? So it should look like this down here. And now what we're going to do is right underneath it, I'm just going to click right there. I'm going to hold down the S key on my keyboard. So S, hold it down, and left mouse click real quick. If you hold it too long, you're going to get a bunch of S's in the name up here. What this is a parameter, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name from all those S's, and we're going to go ahead and call this one small macro. Okay. And we are actually going to put a value in the small macro. This small macro value right down here, the default value is going to be 0.2. All right. Now we've got that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to hold down the M key, as in Mike. So the M key, left mouse click, and we're going to get multiply. I'm going to connect the text chord to A. I'm going to connect the small macro to B, And I don't know why I have this all the way over here because it doesn't need to be that far away. And I'm going to go ahead and plug it in right here. Okay. And you can see it's changed our texture. So now it's got this larger look to it. With those three still selected, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do Control D twice. Okay. And we're going to make some little changes here. Okay. So right here where it says small macro, select that one and change the name from small macro to medium macro. And we're going to change the value of the medium macro to be 0.05. 0.05, okay? And then we're going to plug that in. Again, it doesn't need to be so far away. Save some space. And then the same one here. This one, you probably guessed it, this is going to be large macro. Okay, and the value for large macro is going to be 0.002 or just, yeah, it's 002. So it should be 0.002. Okay, 0.002, just like that. And we're going to connect that up. Okay, and there we have it. We've got our texture variation piece started. So now let's go ahead and make it so that these all work together. Okay. The first thing we need to do, right up in here, I'm going to hold down the A key as an alpha, left mouse click, and that's going to give me the add. With it selected here, I'm going to change the constant B from 1 to 0.5, okay? With it still selected, I'm now going to go ahead and, actually I'm going to click off it, select it again, so I have it all selected correctly. And I'm going to go ahead and Control D twice. I don't mean to do it on top of each other, but we're going to do that twice. Okay, only twice. I don't know why I've got so many. All right, there we go. So we only need 3 of these. Don't know why I did that, but anyway. All right, so coming out from the R, okay? We're not going to come out from the top one. We're coming out from the R here, okay? So for the RGB, we want the R. Okay, and we're going to connect all those up to the A, so they should all be A. So this plus 0.5. Now, we're actually going to do the connection piece of this, these two first. Over here, we're going to hold down the M for Mike again and multiply. We're going to connect this one to B, connect this one to A. And then up here, we're going to hold down the M again, get to multiply. This one goes into A, and this one goes into B. All right. And do something like that. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and highlight that. We're going to comment it. Okay, and this is going to be texture variation. Okay, and we got that first piece done. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is go ahead and get our contrast under control, because this is going to kind of leave, we don't want it to be too bright. We want to be able to set it up and control it so that we can not have it overpowering our regular textures, right? Because this is going to cause a kind of a, this textures right here, these images, to be backlit over the back of our normal material textures. Okay, so let's go ahead and what we're going to need now is to get a vector parameter. So we're going to right click right here and we're going to type in vector. Okay, and we want the vector parameter right here. And this is going to allow us to set up a color. So I'm going to go ahead and go with texture contrast for the name. Okay, we're just typing texture contrast. And this one is going to have some settings in it. We're going to turn it from, from black to white. And right over here under default value, we're going to hit that down arrow. And each of these is going to get 0.5 for the value for the first 3. And then for the alpha, the A at the bottom, we're going to go ahead and put a 1 in there and set that up. And now we're going to get a linear interpolation. And the way to get that is just to hold down the L on your keyboard L as in Lima and left mouse click, and we get the little output from there. We're going to plug the, oops, wrong one. We're going to plug the top output into the A. So the top output into A. And then we're going to take this multiply up here that we put together for our textures, and we're going to plug that in down here in the alpha. And I'm just going to double click on this, move that over just a little bit. All right, so we're going to go ahead and highlight all those. We're going to leave the B on this one empty for right now. Well, we're going to leave it empty. We're not going to put anything in there. And we're going to go ahead and comment this, and we're going to call this reduce texture contrast. And this is something that, you know, you can always come back in and you can change these default values that we put into this parameter to kind of change the amount of input that this is putting in. But I really don't ever touch that. Okay, so now we've got that set up. The next thing we need to do is we need to get our pixel depth, and to be able to set up our textures properly for different distances, as well as for, well, this one's for different distances, yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to right click. We're going to type in pixel, and we want the pixel depth right there. It should be this red node. Okay, and we're just going to do some real quick math. Okay, so I'm going to right click and type in sub for subtract. There's I'm not sure what the shortcut for this one is, but it's definitely not holding down the S. All right, I'm going to hold and connect that to the A, and now we need a constant. So if you hold down the 1 key, so 1, and left mouse click, you're going to get this little node here. This is a constant, and for the value of this constant, we're going to put in 5,000. Okay, connect that in here. Now the various nodes in the math that's being done here, I did not come up with. These are actually some ones that have been around on the internet for a while. So we're going to put a divide in here. So hold down the D key and left mouse click, and you'll get a divide. And yeah, so some of this has been out on the internet. Where some of these numbers came from, I did not create them, so I'm not going to take ownership of that by any means. Now the next thing we need is a constant. So again, hold down the 1 key, left mouse click, and the value for this constant is going to be 7,500. Okay. All right, and the last thing we're going to do is we're going to clamp this. So we're going to right click, we're going to type in clamp, and we want the clamp that comes up underneath the math. And we're just going to plug this into the top, and we're going to leave this at the default of 0 and 1. Okay, and this is going to be used for quite a few things. So we're going to go ahead and highlight this. We're going to comment it, and this is going to be called pixel depth. All right, and now what we're going to do is we're going to connect up this to this by using a couple different things. First, we're going to go ahead and put in a... am I jumping ahead? You know what? Let's go ahead and do it anyway. We'll just put it here and we'll use it in a little bit. So we're going to hold down the L key, and we're going to, again, left mouse click to get a lerp, okay? This is going to go into the alpha right here. Then right up here in this kind of area here, hold down the M key, and we're going to get a multiply. We're going to take the output from this lerp and put it into the A here, and then we're going to take the lerp and we're going to put it into the B, and we'll connect this up here in a bit to some of our other outputs that we need. All right, so I'm going to grab this, I'm going to drag it all the way over here, and I'm going to connect the result up from that to that. Okay, we got an error because we don't have this tangent right here, and we're just going to go ahead and take care of that real quick. I'm going to put a parameter in here. We're not really going to use it for this material function for the material that we're going to create for this particular project, but it is something that could be used for something else, okay? So we're going to go ahead and, again, we're going to hold down the S key and put in a parameter. And a parameter is something that you can change externally. It will show up in our material instance, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and call this, let's see here, we're going to call this dirt, because that's what this function is, underscore rotation. Okay, and I'm going to just plug this in right up here. All right. Okay, so now we've got everything just about ready. We've got a few more things we need to do, though, to get all this set up, okay? And then we'll make some copies of this and get everything put together. All right, so over here, let's go ahead and first get our textures kind of set up. We're going to pull this down a little bit, so I kind of grab that comment on the edge and drag it down. I'm going to pull this down, and while I have it down here, I'm going to go ahead and underneath it, hit Control D because I want to duplicate it. And then I'm going to pull this down a little bit, and I'm also going to do the same thing. I'm going to Control D and duplicate that one. I may not have these far enough down. Okay, and we're going to duplicate each one of these. All right, and then this one as well. All right, so now we've got them all duplicated. And I was just thinking I probably should have renamed them before we did all that, because now we have to rename twice as many. But that's okay. We'll go ahead and do that real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and select this one on the top. And right now, it is called albedo. Right in front of albedo, I'm going to go ahead and type in dirt underscore, and we're going to call this dirt albedo. And I'm actually going to highlight that dirt and underscore, so something like that. I'm going to Control C to copy it. Let's make my life a little easier. And then Control V, and do that for each one of these. So in front of it. Okay. And one last one. All right, so now we've got them all renamed. Now one more piece of fun. We're going to click on the top one up here. Right here where it says texture map. So here's a group. So the name is group. Right here where it says 07 texture maps. We're actually going to put these into their own group called dirt. Okay. And once we click on the one, because this one has the same name, it'll automatically do it. Okay. Now I'm going to click on the next metalness. And if I hit the down arrow, dirt's already typed in there for us, and it'll automatically change the next one for us because they're the same. And we're going to do that for each one of these. Just double checking to make sure that second one gets changed. All right. Okay, we're good. All right, so now we're going to jump over here, and in this empty area, we're going to get a landscape coordinate. Okay, so I'm going to right click, type in landscape, maybe. And we want a landscape layer coordinate right here. Landscape layer coordinate. Okay, and this one, we're going to go ahead and change the default on it. The mapping scale actually to 4. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and create another parameter underneath it. So if you hold the S key, left mouse click again. And I better make sure I didn't just change something. This one we're going to call dirt and underscore tiling. Okay. Wow. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and create a group for this one called tiling. Okay. And now we're going to go ahead and multiply these two together. So hold down M. Okay, click on that. Oh, and for the default for the dirt tiling, we're going to go ahead and set the default value at 5 because there has to be a number in there. You can put it lower, but 5 is kind of a good starting place. Okay, we're going to highlight those. We're going to comment them, and this is going to be called close view. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and select this landscape coordinate, hit Control D, we're going to change this to 44, or 45 rather, the mapping scale to 45. Okay, let me just double check to make sure I didn't accidentally change this one when I typed S. Okay, yeah. So we're 45, and we're going to just comment this one, and we're going to call this far view. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this output, and we're going to connect it to every other one. So basically the top one of each of these groups of 2. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and connect it here to the UV there, and then to the top metalness, to the top ARD, and then to the top normal. All right. This one is going to go to the other one of each of the group. So the second one, the bottom of each of these. Okay. And they're all going to go into the UV. All right. So they all should go into the UV. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do our final connection and get all of this working together, okay? And we're going to use some more linear interpolations to do that. This first one we've already kind of got set up, all right? So I'm just going to highlight those two, kind of drag it down a little bit. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this RGB, I'm going to go into the A here, so the top of the albedo goes into A, and the second albedo, the bottom albedo, goes into B. And then we're going to take this output here, and it's going to go into the albedo one right there. And it should pull that pin out. And we can kind of pull this down and clean things up a little bit so it makes a little bit more sense. See that there? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get another lerp. Okay, so hold down the L key, left mouse button click. All right, and we're going to take from up here on this clamp, we're going to go down to the alpha, so the clamp that's up here on our pixel depth. We're going to take the top one into A, the bottom one on the RGB to B, and this is our metalness, so our metallic. So we're going to grab it, and you can see where it's plugged into right there already, so we're going to just go ahead and replace it, right? Okay. Now, this one we need 2 lerps, okay? So I'm going to hold down the L, I'm going to hit 1, 2. Okay, and the reason is that we're going to use the red for the AO and the green output for the roughness, okay? So the red one goes in this top one here. So the red ARD from the top one, and then this one goes into the B. Okay, and this will go into the AO up here at the very top. Okay. And then this one right here, this one's going to be our green. So we're going to take the green into A. And we're going to take the green into B. We're going to connect this up to the roughness. Okay. And before I forget, we also need to take the output from our clamp and put it into the alpha of each of these. Okay. Connect it in there like that. All right, so one more. Okay. Hold down L, left mouse button click. The RGB from the top normal, RGB from the bottom normal, A and B. Let's go ahead and grab that clamp real quick. Go down into the alpha, and then this is going to go over here into our tangent normal. Okay, and now everything should be connected up. Let's go ahead and save it. All right, so one done, 2 more to go. But the good thing is, it's going to be a little bit easier now because we've already got all this together. All we have to do is duplicate, change the names, and then put together our material. Okay, I'm going to close this MS or MMS surface material real quick. We don't need that anymore. And I just remembered also right here, dirt rotation. Let's give it a group. We're going to go ahead and call this rotation. Okay, there we go. All right, so now let's go back into our content drawer. Go back into our, we went all the way down into here. Go back up to our content folder and into our materials, into our material functions. I'm going to select dirt. I'm going to hit Control D. I'm going to change this one to grass. So MF underscore grass. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit Control D again. Change that last one into rock. Okay. All right. So now all we got to do, double click on the grass one. Everywhere where it says dirt, we're going to change it to rock. Okay. We're going to leave that one in that group. We're going to change the tiling over here from dirt tiling to rock tiling. Okay. And then each one of these is also going to need to be changed to rock. Okay, I'm going to do the first couple, and then I'm going to pause. I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to change the next one for the grass as well, okay? And I'll do that off camera, all right? So once I got it rock, I'm going to select the next one, type in rock, or go ahead and just copy and paste it in there for each one of these. Also, don't forget, okay, you also need to create the group. Okay, so right here, I'm going to change this dirt to rock. Actually, this is grass. Why am I saying rock? Oh my goodness. Okay. So, I think you get the idea. Change it to grass, all right? Since I've already got this one started as rock, I don't know why I was thinking rock the whole time. This was grass. You're probably looking at me, yelling at me, saying it should be grass. What I'm going to do is I am going to just go ahead and save it like this. I'm going to go back in, fix my 2 here. So I'm going to change this rock one's name real quick to probably like rock 1. Okay. And then change this one to rock. Can't believe I did this. Okay. And then change rock 1 to grass. All right, so there we go. So I'm going to finish up rock. All right, like I said, do not forget to change the group to rock for each of these as well. And then when you change that first one, it should also change the second one, which it did not because I didn't finish. Oh, wow. All right, I'm going to go back and fix a couple mistakes here, I guess. Okay. And you're going to change all these from dirt to rock and from dirt or grass or whatever. Okay, so you're going to fix all of them so that they each have their own name, dirt, rock, and grass, matching to what the material function should be. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and pause. I'll come back, show you what it should look like, and then we'll move on. Okay, so now I have finished up, and I caught my mistake. So here we have, this has been changed to grass tiling or whatever the material function should be. These have all been changed to grass albedo, metalness, ARD, and normal, as well as put into the grass group for each one of these. This one right here changed to grass rotation. Make sure you add rotation to the group. I'm not sure if I completed my sentence on that one. And it should be that way for all of these. The rock should now all be rock. Okay, and don't forget to change the tiling one here as well. All right, so now we've got all that done. Now we're going to jump into setting up our master material. I'm going to go ahead and click down here, go back into my materials, go to my master landscape material folder, and I'm going to go ahead and right click, and I'm going to create a material. I'm going to go ahead and call this M underscore, actually landscape master. Okay, and this is going to be my material for my landscape master. Double click it, open it up, and here we have our material node. Okay. All right, so I'm going to zoom out a little way so it's kind of small like this. I'm going to pull it all the way over here to the right hand side. What I'm going to do first is up here, kind of in this area right here, I'm going to right click and I'm going to type in break. And what we want is to break material attributes. It should be that top one right there. Okay, if we zoom in, you can see that has all of these different individual pieces, and we have our attributes right there. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back out again, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this so I have a total of 6. 4, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one more. All right, so now I've got 6 of them. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of zoom in so I can see these 3 right here. I'm going to open up my content folder. I'm going to go back into my materials folder, into my material functions, and I'm going to drag out grass. That's going to go in the top one right here. I'm going to then go ahead and grab out rock. That's going to go with the second one right here. And then I'm going to drag out dirt. And that one's going to go right in here. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and select all 3 of them. Just do a drag like that, left mouse click. I'm going to zoom down here. And right in this area, I'm going to go ahead and Control D to duplicate those. Drag them down so they kind of line up like the other ones did. And I'm going to take these material functions and I'm going to connect them into here. Now the order does matter, okay, because the way we're going to set this up is going to read basically, this is going to blend our materials. This is going to blend our materials, and we want them set up in a certain order. All right, so now we've got them all connected together. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of zoom out so we can see these 3 right here. The top 3, kind of out in this distance out here. I'm going to hold down my L key, left mouse button click and get a lerp, and then kind of closer to this, kind of the middle of the second one here, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, hold down the L and get a lerp, okay? This lerp output is going to go into B of this top lerp right there. We're going to grab the very top one that's the base color of our top break material where our grass is connected. We're going to plug that into, sorry I got those backwards. That goes into B. This one goes into A. Knew it was going too quick. All right, and then we're going to connect this one into A. And the third one down, where our rock is right here, where our dirt is rather, we're going to grab this one and we're going to plug this into B. Okay. So now what we need to do is, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. I'm going to grab this, kind of bring it a little closer. This output right here from the lerp, we're going to grab that output. I'm going to come down here to my material, if I can find it, and I'm going to put it into my base color right there, okay? And we're probably further out than we need to be. All right. Okay, so that's the start of it. And now what we need to do is we need to get this blending piece set up. And it's going to be kind of hard to tell because we're using our base materials here. But this, once this is built, this is something you can use over and over and over again. Just change the names for your different material that you want it to be. And this is kind of a one and done type of thing as long as you don't corrupt it. All right, so now what we're going to need is a world attribute blend. So we're going to right click, or world aligned blend, sorry. World aligned. Okay, and we want the top one, world aligned blend right there. All right, the output of this alpha goes into this alpha here. We're going to make 2 parameters. Okay, so I'm going to hold down the S key, left mouse click. This first one is going to be called grass rock sharp because we're blending our grass and our rock together using this one, and this is the sharpness piece of it. Okay. All right, and this one is going to have a default value of 21.5, and I'm going to connect this into right here where it says blend sharpness. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same. I'm just actually going to duplicate this one. I'm going to hit Control D, duplicate it. Instead of sharp, we're going to change the name to bias. Okay, and the bias has a value of -9.3. Again, these are parameters that you can kind of play around with to fine-tune your landscape, but these numbers are pretty darn close. They work pretty good. They've been around for a while on the internet. I'm not sure exactly who came up with them, but so I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to Control C, And then over here underneath one, I'm going to hit Control V. Okay. And I'm going to take this alpha, I'm going to plug it into this alpha right here. This is now, instead of grass rock sharp, we're going to call this dirt. Actually, it's rock dirt. So we're going to, because it's the order that's going to go in, so we're going to say rock dirt sharp. And this value is going to be 23.15. 23.15. Okay, and this one's going to be rock dirt bias. Okay, I'm going to just hit enter. And this one is going to have a value of negative 8.7. All right, and that's the beginnings of that. So now we've got our base color set up. We're going to come down here and we're going to do a very similar thing for the normal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just highlight these. Okay, and I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to hit Control D in this area right here. Okay, and I'm going to connect this top one, the grass, normal. So we're going to go down here to the normal, right here where it says normal. We'll pull that out and we're going to connect it into the B. All right. We're going to take this normal right here. We're going to plug it into A. And we're going to take this normal down here. Plug that into B. Now we're going to have to change this alpha right here. It cannot be alpha. We're going to use this setting down here. Actually, we want to take it out from the explicit normal right down here. And we're going to plug it into that alpha right there. You'll get an error if you don't do this, so you need to make sure you do this. Okay? And then we're going to change these values. And it looks like that value didn't hold for me up here. So good thing I did that. Let me go back in. Again, this value for the top one should be 21.5. Not sure what I did. All right, and then, so now what we're going to do is these actually have different values for down here, okay? And we're going to make these, actually, no, I'm sorry. They're the exact same values. Everything should be the same. So that one should be 21.5. All right. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and take this, and we're going to plug this into the normal right there. Now you could have run a string down from here to these, into these inputs, but I think this makes it look a little cleaner if we do it this way. Now the last thing we're going to need to do for this material is these are not going to carry over for this particular setup because we're blending it. So our metallic, our specular, and our roughness are not going to carry over. So what we're going to do is we're going to make parameters to be able to control those in our material instance, okay? So again, I'm going to hold down the S key and I'm going to just type in, call this one master underscore metallic. Metallic. Okay, and I'm actually going to put these in a group. Okay, and this group I'm going to just call it landscape settings. Okay, and I'm just going to leave it at 0. I'm going to plug it into metallic. With it highlighted, I'm going to hit Control D. I'm going to change it from metallic to specular. Okay, connected into specular, leaving it at 0 because these are things we'll change later. And then I'm going to hit Control D again and change it from specular to roughness. And I'm going to connect that up. And I'm going to leave it at 0 for right now. All right, I'm going to save it. Make sure everything works okay. All right, so we're not going to see any change here because this is basically a, yeah, just our basic material textures are all the same, so it's all going to look the same. Okay, so now we're going to go back to our content drawer, and in our materials, we're going to go back into our landscape. I'm going to select the landscape master, right-click on it. We're going to create a material instance. I'm going to leave INST at the end, but I am going to put an I after the beginning. So MI underscore landscape for material instance for our naming convention. I'm going to save it. Okay. I'm going to double click and open it up. Okay, hit save all, make sure it's all working. So over here is where we can change all of our textures, okay? So here's our dirt, our grass, and our rock should be in here. This is the landscape settings that we just did at the end that is going to allow us to change those, the way those are set up. And down here, it looks like I didn't change all the names for the rotation. Thought I did. Grass rotation, rock rotation, and dirt rotation. They're all in. Okay. Not sure why they're not showing up, but we'll dig into that later. Like I said, we're not really going to use it anyway, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to chase it down right now. That might be something I catch later on. You know what? Here it is right here. For some reason, it didn't put it in the right spot. I may have put the name in the wrong spot. Yeah, rock rotation and dirt rotation are both in the wrong spot. And I would guess that's because... I have no idea why. All right, we'll worry about that later. I'm not going to chase after it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get these all set up, all right? So we're going to turn on our grass albedo, our ARD, our normal, albedo, ARD, normal, and up here, same thing, albedo, ARD, and normal. Okay, so I'm going to go into my materials here. Actually, I'm going to go to my content, into my Megascans, surfaces, and I'm going to go ahead and just, yeah, double click on this, open it up. So what I want to do is I want to get these over there. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on this, hit the arrow, okay, and let's see, there's got to be a way to get this to stay up. I could dock it. You know, I'll dock it for right now. There we go, dock it and layout. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and select my, you know what, I'm in the wrong one. Wow, let's try this again, and I lost it. Why did it leave? All right, so I'm actually going to go to the right surfaces. We're going to go to my gravel for my ground. I'm going to select that one, hit that there. Oh, I see why. All right, so I'm going to pull this off onto another screen. Okay, make it a little easier on me. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm selecting each one of the textures, and I'm hitting the arrow key, and I'm putting it in. This time I'm making sure I'm getting the right one, because the gravel is the one I want for my dirt. Then my grass, go back in and get the grass. So basically, again, I'm just selecting the texture, and I'm hitting the arrow to change it out. Okay, and you can see that in the image here, my master is beginning to change. It's actually not my master. This is my material instance. And then we're going to do the same thing for the rock, which I picked was the beach cave wall. Hopefully that comes out all right. Okay. And whenever we add the ARD, we're going to get this little caution up here. It's just the way this is set up. I'm not sure. I'll have to dig into why we're getting this caution. But it still works, so I'm not too worried about it right now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this. Now that I've got my material instance set up, I'm going to go ahead and save it. Save all. Okay, so now the next thing is to actually make a landscape, right? So I'm going to pull this down off of here, and I'm going to close that one right there. I'm going to pull this over to the side for a second. All right, so this is our game world. It's just this big square right here. But what we want to do is we want to add a landscape to it, okay? So I'm going to come up here underneath where it says landscape for my title, for my level. And I'm going to hit the down arrow. I'm going to go to landscape right here, okay? And when I do that, you see I get this green kind of grid system out here, okay? It all corresponds to these quads, these sections, number of component count. and an overall resolution. All right. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and change it to 120. I think I'll do 63 by 63, and then the number count. I'm going to run this up. Actually, what do I want to do it at? Let's see here. I think. Let's see. I'm trying to think which one I want to use. I think. I'm trying to remember what I showed you in my demo. This has to do with the resolution and the number of squares per section out here. And I'm trying to remember what the default ones are. And I'm not doing such a good job. So 1072. That's what I want. By 1072. I think that's good enough. You can, of course, we can run it higher, but 1072 I think will work okay. And actually, I think if I run this to 18 by 18, there we go. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and with that, I'm going to allow this to be editable. So I'm going to editable. So we can edit it. So I'm going to put a little check mark in there. We may not do anything with it. And I'm going to go ahead and just hit create. Okay. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to get this giant flat kind of world out here. All right. And this is my world. And if I wanted to, I could start sculpting with just these squares and see all that. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go ahead and come back up here, go back to select, and just click on my landscape out there. Okay. And in my landscape, I can see not much. Okay. But what I am going to do is I'm going to add my landscape material to it. Okay. So I'm going to go to my content drawer, and I'm going to go into my content, back into my materials. I'm going to find my material instance back here in my master landscape. This material instance that we created. I'm going to select it, drag and drop it into there. And now what it's done is it has set up my material into my world. Okay. And right now it's all grass because it's all flat. But as I start to build it, okay, that will change. And let's go ahead and make sure our character is set up. Let's take a look and see what that looks like. So if I go to my world settings, so if you don't have that open, go to Window, go to World Settings, and open that up. And you'll notice that this new level doesn't have a game mode. So we're going to hit down arrow, and we're going to just select the BP third person. And what should happen, if you hit this arrow here, you should have your third person character. The other thing we don't have is a start position. So it'll start at 0, 0. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to find my player start here. So in my place actors tab, if you don't have this tab open, again, that's up here, place actors panel. And you can also select them from here as well. All right, so I'm going to grab my player start, just drop that in the scene, and there we go. All right, so if I hit play, my character is on this giant flat surface, and you can see the discoloration. So that is hiding the texturing. If you look at it at the right angle, you can kind of see that there's this like tiling going on, but this color variation that we put into the material is making it so that's not so obvious. It's not these little tiny squares over and over and over again. All right. Now, the other thing we want to do is in our material instance, we're going to change our tiling. So I'm going to click on tiling here. I find that the rock looks pretty good if we have a really small tiling and stretch it. So I'm going to put 0.5 in there, but you can always go back and change this, right? I'm going to change dirt to about 2. And the grass didn't look so bad at 5, but if we change it to 2 real quick just to see what it looks like. And then I'm going to just pull this off to the side. You can take a look and see what it's kind of done now, okay? And the grass is a little bit bigger. I'm not sure, but we'll go with that for right now. All right, so let's talk about actually making our landscape out here, okay? I'm going to go back into my landscape, and I'm going to kind of give myself some altitude here. Figure out where my player start is. I'm not going to change my player start. I'm going to leave it flat right there, so I'm going to move away from it a little bit. All right, and right now I'm in the sculpt mode, okay? You have different types of brush styles here you can play with and different fall-off style. You have a tool strength, which is, I believe, set at a default of 0.3. You can make it stronger or weaker, and that just controls how fast this grows. If you take a look at my circle right here that's in the scene, you'll see that it's kind of cloudy towards the edges, but it gets darker as it goes in towards the middle. And all the way out to that outer ring, there's nothing. That is kind of the fall off. You can adjust that here with this fall off. So if I move this up, you can see that it gets smaller. If I move it down, the fall off gets smaller. Okay, you always go back to default. And then this is the brush size. You can make it really, really big. You can make it really, really small. So you can do all kinds of things with it. And that's this particular tool. Each one of these tools up here, there's an erase tool. You'll see they change depending on what tool you're using. You have different things that you can play around with and adjust, and different methods to make things work. Okay, the ramp one I'm not going to get into. I don't ever use it. And there's erosion and hydro and noise. These are things that you can add into to kind of erode and adjust the shape. So I'm going to go ahead and go with sculpt. So I'm going to just kind of hold down the left mouse button, and as I start to kind of sculpt this out a little bit, kind of start getting some mountains here. And right now my brush is pretty big, so, and you can, of course, the longer you hold it, the higher it gets. It starts to blend things together. Okay, now to make holes, you can hold down the shift button and you can start to make depressions. Okay. Smoothing things does just that. It will smooth the edges down, so it kind of rounds it off, and if you hold it long enough, it starts to kind of flatten it out a little bit. Flatten does that same thing. So if I take a low area here and I hold down the flatten button, it'll flatten it down to that level. If I put it up here on the top, it'll flatten everything up to that level. Okay. Erosion, this is like normal weather type of erosion, not water. And if I, and actually I want a smaller brush for that. So I'm going to go down to a smaller brush size. I can kind of control it on the sides here. As I start to erode it down, you can start to see how it shapes. Hydro, kind of the same thing. Now I've got that. If I go back over, you get this water runoff look. It starts to dig into it, erode it like as if water were doing it. Noise, you have a setting where it says height, so it goes both up, so add and subtract, so you can do either one. So if you want to add, you can add noise that goes upwards. Subtract, you add noise that goes downwards, and it's not, so basically noise is like this not even amount of oh, there's my platform. Okay, and then if you do both, there we go, both will both go up and down, and it'll start to give you this kind of interesting wear look as well. Okay. All right, so that's kind of the run through. Retop I'm not going to get into. You can play around with it. All right, so now if I hit play, put my character down on the ground, you can kind of see what we're looking at. Okay, and as I get closer, you'll see the terrain kind of changes, the texturing changes when I'm further away. And as I get closer, the scale of everything starts to change a little bit. Probably see that easier if I'm flying through. But the rock and gravel are at the base of the hill. The grass is on the flatter areas. Okay, so that's the basics. And as you practice and play around with it, of course you'll get better at getting it all set up and making your landscapes. In my next video, we'll talk about height maps, and we'll talk about a couple places you can get height maps from and how to make height maps using World Machine, which you can use for free. They have a free version you can use. Of course, there's stipulations on it, but you can learn how to use it and play with it before you decide to buy it or something else. And so, yeah, that will be what we do in our next video. All right, so I hope this video kind of gave you an idea of some ways to make some terrain and landscapes in Unreal Engine using Megascans and some blueprinting to make automatic textures that adjust as you raise and lower your terrain for your landscape. And again, if you have any questions, make sure you put them down in the comments. I will be checking those and get back to you. And again, if you liked what you saw, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you next time.